Hello everyone and welcome to the 2020 year update and Q&A video. In 2019, I saw tons of new steam locomotives, traveled to new places in the United States, and saw the YouTube channel pass the major milestone of reaching 500,000 subscribers. Hopefully, 2020 will be just as exciting. I got a ton of great questions this year, so I'm going to keep the update part of the video pretty short and hopefully I'll have time to get to everyone. So with that, let's put on our 2020 vision and look into the future at what lies ahead this year for the channel. Now the first thing I want to talk about in this video is something called COPPA. COPPA, or the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, is a law that was passed by the US government back in 1998, and it was designed to protect children's information from being stolen on the internet or obtained without parent permission. In 2013, the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC for short, expanded this to include the kind of data YouTube collects as part of its targeted advertising and analytics data. Fast forward to September of 2019, the FTC fined YouTube $171 million for violating COPPA, and YouTube also made changes to their website to stay in compliance. Essentially, they shifted a large chunk of the responsibility for complying with this law onto individual creators. Communication on this issue from both YouTube and the FTC has left many creators confused, but basically, as of January 1st, 2020, anyone who uploads videos to YouTube must mark all of their videos that are specifically intended for kids, and as a result, these videos will no longer have personalized ads, and along with a bunch of other features including comments and notifications of when the videos are first published. I'll post a link to some more info YouTube has provided on this issue in the video description. So how does this affect this channel? In order to comply with this rule, I have marked all of my toy train videos as for kids, so they have already lost their comments section and are harder to find using basic YouTube search results. This is a bit disappointing to me because I was hoping to make a lot more toy train videos this year. I'm not really sure what's going to come of all this in the long run, so for now I'm just going to wait and see, and I will update you as necessary. While I won't be doing as many Toy Train videos this year as I had hoped, I'm still planning on making a Toy Trains Galore 6 that will hopefully be out sometime in September, so make sure you look for updates on that on the community tab of the channel page or on my Facebook or Twitter pages. Now let's get on to some more fun stuff. New content ideas I have planned for this year. In the 500,000 subscriber special video, I finally did my official face reveal, and I mentioned that I would possibly be doing some videos in the future where I am actually in front of the camera. I've thought about doing some travel videos about some of my trips that I actually appear in, the first of which may be on this channel as soon as March. Also, as part of last week's video, I did my first ever top 10 list. This is another form of content I'm currently exploring, and I'm hoping to have some more top 10 lists later this year. As you saw at the beginning of the month, Train Talk has finally returned, and I'm hoping to have many more episodes this year, possibly as often as once every month. I'm planning on doing a couple of new Trains Galore videos this year as well, with one possibly coming in the late spring and then Steam Trains Galore 8 in the fall. In terms of trip plans for 2020, I don't have too many firm plans yet other than a trip down to SoCal next month along with a few side trips to Nevada and New Mexico. That said, I have a lot of exciting things trip-wise in the works for this year, including potentially a big trip to Canada, but since I'm still working out a lot of details, I'm going to hold off on announcing anything for now. Keep an eye out on the community tab for updates. Alright, it's time for some questions. What are your most anticipated steam locomotive restorations? Probably Santa Fe 2926 and C&O 2716. What is your favorite locomotive, steam and diesel electric? Also, what are you going to do your next train talk about? Steam is the Southern Pacific GS4, diesel would be the F40PH. Next train talk will hopefully be Passenger Cars Part 2. Are you going to do a compilation of Tier 4 GEVOs at work? I could do that at some point, probably when I get some more videos of them in 4K. If you could bring back an extinct American steam locomotive from the dead, what would it be? Probably the New York Central Hudson. After that, the Southern Pacific GS2 or the GS3? Will you be doing the Eastern Long Distance Trains Train Talk next? Yeah, I did that one at the beginning of January. Are you going to do a Train Talk episode focusing on the UP STEAM program? Possibly at some point. Did you film Caltrain last year? Very briefly, but yes. What was your favorite trip, favorite locomotive that happened in 2019? Favorite trip was probably visiting Florida, and favorite locomotive was the Big Boy 4014. Do you have any major trips planned in 2020 like 2019? So far, just the one next month, but there will most likely be more. Do you prefer photo charters or regular trips? It depends on the situation, but you can usually get better and more photos with a photo charter, but you know, sometimes regular trips are good too. Steam or diesel, or about the same? About the same. What's the hardest video for you to make? The long narrated videos like my Coast Starlight video from 2018, because they take a lot of planning, filming, and editing. What is your all-time favorite steam locomotive and why? What was your favorite moment of 2019? Southern Pacific 4449, favorite moment of 2019 was seeing 4014 running again. What would you prefer? Union Pacific 844, Union Pacific 4014, or the Challenger? Probably 4014, but I like the other two as well. How was 2019? Overall pretty good, but very, very busy. What was your favorite TV show as a kid? California's Gold with Huell Hauser. Arizona or Nevada? Both. Union Pacific 1995 or 1982? Probably 1995, but I like the 1982 a lot as well. Do you want to check out my channel sometime in January? Sure. Hello. Do you exercise on your free time? Yes. Do you know Spencer Hughes? Yes. Do you like BNSF ES44 GCs or Union Pacific C45 ACCTEs? Both. Nathan K5 LLA or Leslie RS3T? Both. When did you first start YouTube, and have you ever been train watching with Trainiac Productions? I opened my very first YouTube account on December 27th, 2007, and then I opened this account on September 20th, 2008. I know Kyle, and I used to talk to him quite frequently, but I've never met him in person, so maybe next time I'm on a trip to the Northeast. How would today's railroad industry be like if SP and ATSF merged? I imagine it would probably be pretty similar, with the exception of which railroads still existed. Have you ever considered doing a bloopers and outtakes compilation? Yes. What's the next big thing you plan to cover in 2020 in terms of steam locomotives? Well, next month will be the steam rotary snowplow at the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad, and we'll see what happens later in the year. What are some useful tips for chasing the Cumbres and Toltec? Scout the line ahead of time and pick out your spots. The best part of the chase is from Chama to Cumbres Summit, and there are a lot of great locations to choose from. Would you ever do a video of the Pacific Southwest Railway Museum? I think the San Diego Railroad Museum is something best covered in kind of a travel type video like I was mentioning earlier on. The museum is quite a ways from San Diego, and there aren't too many locations to catch the trains out there, so that's the biggest reason why I never went out there for a video, along with a few other things. Do you know Casey Jr.? Yes. What is your favorite steam locomotive? SP4449. Can you do a train talk on the PRR T1 Trust? If they ever want to work on a video with me, sure. Sioux Line 1003 or Pere Marquette 1225. Probably 1225, but it's close. Via Rail or Amtrak? Amtrak, but Via is great too, and I'm hoping to see them later this year. When do you post the 2019 trains in review? The last Friday of the year. Which locomotive was the first one you've seen, and what was the first one you recorded, and how did you love the railroad start? First one I saw was probably either an Amtrak F40 or something at Disneyland. First one I filmed was Amtrak Pacific Surfliner Train 583 with locomotive 453 on December 27th, 2002. Probably my first interest in trains is from a video about Southern Pacific 4449 called the Daylight Express, and that was made by Skyfire in 1991. What do you plan to do when YouTube releases its new rules related to COPPA on January 1st? See the beginning of the video. What was it like catching trains in the state of Florida and also riding on Amtrak's Auto Train? I really enjoyed my visit to Florida, and I liked riding on the Auto Train a lot too. I got to see a lot of neat trains and go to a bunch of really cool locations. Do you plan on coming back to Carlsbad, California to see the newly remodeled Carlsbad Poinsettia Station? Possibly. I'll be back in San Diego next month in February and in March, and probably a couple times later in the year as well. Are you planning on releasing the Train Talk episode about types of passenger cars part 2? Yes. Hopefully next month, but that depends on when I have time to finish it. What was your best place to watch the Union Pacific 4014 Big Boy? I really liked seeing it in Echo Canyon and Weber Canyon, although probably my best shots of that whole trip were on the section between Green River, Wyoming, and Evanston, Wyoming, in both directions. When do you plan on going back to Chicago, Illinois? I caught one of them last year. It was right at the beginning of when they were starting to be placed into service. I'm hoping to go back there either this year or next. We'll see what happens. If you have time, could you also try to make a Train Talk episode about Los Angeles Metrolink? Yeah, that's always a possibility. What was the reason you moved from Southern California to the Pacific Northwest? I wanted to be closer to my family. I really liked the Pacific Northwest. I've always liked the Pacific Northwest. And I didn't have many connections to San Diego anymore because a lot of the people I knew there have moved away. Also, what are your thoughts on the new EMD F125 locomotives, and do you think they are worthy replacements for Metrolink's F59PH and F59PHI locomotives, and will you miss the F59s on Metrolink just as much as Amtrak's? I think they look cool. Pretty much all new locomotives have some sort of teething troubles at the beginning, and with all the complicated onboard computer systems in these newer generation locomotives, it's not too surprising to see them find all sorts of kinks that need to be worked out. We'll have to see what happens, but they seem to be pretty decent, and yeah, I'm gonna miss the Metrolink F59s too. Can you visit the Chehalis Centralia Railroad? Can you film the Seattle monorail? And how long do you predict it's going to be until you reach 1 million subscribers? Yeah, I could probably go to Chehalis Centralia, but not until their steam locomotive is running again. In terms of the monorail, possibly. I've filmed the monorail before, back in 2003, the first time I came up to Seattle, but I never posted that video, so I'll, next time I'm in Seattle, I'll take a look. And in terms of 1 million subscribers, I'm not sure, but probably within a couple years. What is your favorite steam locomotive, SP4449? What inspired you to start a YouTube channel? I found out about YouTube actually in 2006 when I was looking on another train website, and there were links on it to some videos from YouTube rail fans, which to me was a brand new thing. I didn't even know about YouTube before that, and I was really inspired by what at the time were some of the first YouTube rail fans that ever had accounts, and I thought, this is really cool. I'd like to share my videos too, and that's what I ended up doing. And what is your favorite railroad other than Coaster? Passenger would be Amtrak, freight would be Santa Fe, and then a regional would be the Alaska Railroad. Did you use a radio or scanner back when you started rail fanning? No, in fact, I still don't have a scanner. Do you have a favorite train meme and a random meme? I don't really know. I'll have to get back to you on that one. What will be the non-train video next year, like buses, boats, and airplanes? I'm not sure if I'll be doing one this year, but if I do, it will probably be airplanes. If you wanted to save a locomotive that was involved in a crash that happened years ago, which one would it be? Probably the Georgia Pacific logging tank engine number 9 that was wrecked when they were filming the movie Ring of Fire. When you put music in your videos, where do you normally use it from? Most of it's from the YouTube music library, although some of it has been written and recorded just for my videos by a friend of mine. What was it like to see Union Pacific Big Boy 4014 back in service? It was awesome. It was surreal. It's a once in a lifetime thing. It's one of the biggest steam locomotives in the world, and it hasn't run in 60 years. And then all of a sudden, you just see it pulling out of the yard and steam billowing out of it. It's really cool. What do you think of the new Evelia Liberty? Looks interesting to me, and I'd like to see it in person. Yeah, sure, they could be successful. Do you think because Siemens' new role in American railroads, they will release a diesel made for freight railroads? They might at some point, but I don't think they will, at least for the time being. If you were to go overseas in the next year or two, where would you go? Australia is definitely at the top of my list, followed by the UK and Germany, and then after that would probably be Japan or some of the other countries in continental Europe. Can you explain how track changers work probably in a future episode of Train Talk. When will you do a face reveal? 2 weeks ago. What kind of film photography equipment do you use? I use the Canon XF400 with an external microphone made by Rode, and I use Manfrotto tripods. Do you think you will ever come back to Florida sometime in the future? Definitely. What is your piece of advice for smaller railroading YouTube channels trying to grow? First, do work that you're proud of, that you enjoy to watch yourself. The other thing would be to try to create something that makes you unique. Do something original that's your own work, that's creative. What would your favorite spots be in the West, East, and Midwest? I like scenic spots, so things with water or locations that are elevated above the tracks. Particularly a lot of places along Puget Sound or the Pacific Ocean out on the west coast, or the Hudson River out east. In the Midwest, there are a lot of great industrial and urban spots, such as places around Chicago that can really give your photos and videos a lot of character. Are you ever going to do a video on all the short line railroads and main line railroads in Arizona? I'll probably do an Arizona trains video like my New Mexico trains and my California trains videos, if that's what you mean. What other places in the San Diego area do you like to railfan at other than the Del Mar Cliffs? Coast Highway Overpass in Del Mar, the Wooden Trestle in Del Mar, the Bluffs in Cardiff, the La Costa Lagoon and Trestle, Cassidy Street, and then the Oceanside Harbor Bridge. What are your thoughts on the many high-speed rail projects being planned throughout the United States? I think we're a long way off from any of those being finished, but they'd be neat to see. What kind of radio or scanner would you recommend to use for rail fanning? Also, what are the guidelines for using the @ symbol? I will have to get back to you on that because I am just about to get my first radio, believe it or not. In terms of tagging on Instagram, I usually only do it if I think it's relevant to the photo, and I try not to do it too often or too repetitively. In all your years of rail fanning, what is the wildest thing you've encountered while trackside? Probably all the wild animals I've seen. Eagles, deer, coyotes, foxes. I even saw a bear once. Can you meet me next year, please? Maybe. Keep an eye out. When did you meet Kyle Edwards, and have you been to Deschler, Ohio? I've never met him in person, just online, and I have not been to Deschler, although I'd like to at some point. How long does it take to film and edit a train video? It really depends on what the video is. Some of the videos I can film and edit all in one day, and some of them take a lot longer. Where do you live? Northern Washington State. What other things are you interested in besides trains? I like geography, and I like a lot of things in nature, wild animals, especially birds and some of the bigger mammals. I also like learning about history a lot. What was the first train ride you took? Probably something on the Disneyland Railroad or the Amtrak San Diegan from San Diego to Del Mar. What steam locomotives do you hope to see in 2020? Hopefully the big boy again, the Rio Grande 168 at the Cumbres and Toltec, and maybe if I have time, Nickel Plate Road 765 or Milwaukee Road 261 later this year. Will you be seeing 611 next year? I saw it in 2019, so probably not again in 2020 unless something just happens to work out. Do you have any new rail fanning locations? I always have new locations. Why is the Coaster commuter line your favorite railroad, and why 2105? Coaster was my local commuter railroad when I lived in San Diego all those years. 2105 just became my favorite locomotive because I had a model of it as a kid. In your opinion, what is the coolest looking diesel or electric locomotive? Personally, I love the lines of the F40 and the AEM7, and I like a lot of the old streamlined Budd and Pullman cars too. Where's the most common place that you know of to see NS or UP heritage units? It's pretty random, but your best bet really, if you want to do that, is to pick a rail line that has a lot of freight traffic on it and just go out there and hope you see something. Or you can use one of the online heritage unit tracking pages. When did you start loving trains? When I was a very young kid. Will you be coming back to New Jersey? Yeah, but I'm not sure when. Thoughts on precision scheduled railroading? It has benefits for stockholders, but drawbacks for customers and employees really too. favorite rebuild on Norfolk Southern is the SD60E. Will you be coming out to Ohio and visiting the Nickel Plate Road 765 on the Steam in the Valley excursion in 2020? Too early to say at this point, but if I have time, I'd like to. Are you filming Trinity Railway Express? I did last year, and I'd like to do more of that this year if I have time. Have you considered coming to the Northeast or perhaps shooting light rail? I've been to the Northeast a few times, and I'd like to go back when I get a chance. I'm kind of holding off right now because I'm hoping the Western Maryland Scenic will get their 1309 steam locomotive done, but we'll see. I've done a number of light rail and trolley videos before, and I'll probably be doing some more in the future, including potentially next week. Where is ex-Amtrak F40 PHR number 404 at right now? It's at Larry's Truck Electric in Youngstown, Ohio. When is the Eastern Long Distance Train video, and are you going to try to ride another Amtrak train? It came out at the beginning of the month, and I'm definitely planning on it. Rarest catch you have seen or caught? One of the rarest was probably the F125 locomotive delivery train that I got at the very end of 2018. If you could catch anything right now, what would you choose? No question, Phase 3 Amtrak F40 or AEM7 leading a matching set of Amfleet cars. Favorite steam locomotive not operating would be, probably Southern Pacific 4460 or maybe the cab forward. What are your best tips for getting the perfect shot while rail fanning? Well, actually, I was thinking about doing a train talk episode on this. So is that something you'd like to see me do? If you want me to do that, let me know. I'll create a poll in this video so you can vote in the poll. What would you say was your most memorable catch of 2019? The big boy running for the first time in 60 years, easily. Are you excited to see what happens in 2020 regarding any future train spotting? Definitely. Do you have any plans to travel to other cities in North America in 2020? Cities in Canada, probably next on the list. Have you ever filmed the Dollywood Express at the Dollywood Theme Park in Pigeon Forge or the Frisco Silver Dollar line at the Silver Dollar City Theme Park in Branson? I have not. Have you ever filmed the Heston Steam Museum? Nope, not that one either. Have you filmed the New Hope in Ivyland? Nope, that's another one I haven't been to. Are you still going to do a future train talk episode on the DRGW narrow gauge system anytime soon? I want to do it at some point, but I'm not sure when that'll be. What are your top 5 mainline steam excursion locomotives? Of course, 4449, UP 4014, Paramarquette 1225, Santa Fe 3751, and then probably Norfolk and Western 611. Do you really like train talk and train music videos? Yeah, I do. They just take a very long time to put together, and sometimes takes me a while to get them all finished and uploaded to YouTube. Can you do a train talk video on bells? I'd like to do that someday. What is an example of a locomotive on static display you would like to see in working operating condition? The Southern Pacific Cab Forward or the C&O Allegheny? If you could bring an extinct steam locomotive back from the dead, which one would you resurrect and why? Probably New York Central Hudson. Will you do the Tweetsy Heritage Weekend in 2020? I don't know yet. Will 1309 and 2926 operate? I'm hoping they will. What will happen if you reach 1 million subs? Probably going across country meet and greet road trip, or some bigger trip overseas maybe. What is your favorite car company? Jeep. What kind of steam will operate in 2020? Some mainline, but mostly tourists and museum. Are you a steam fan or a diesel fan? I'm both. Would you like to see Frisco 1630? Yes, I would. I'm curious, how many times have you seen the big boy? I saw it on 2 of the excursions it made this year. The original one, the maiden voyage from Cheyenne to Ogden, and then also when it came out to California. And of those trips, I saw it at a total of 38 different locations. What was your best catch of 2019? Were you crying when you saw Skookum and Big Boy come back and the Norfolk and Western Steam reunion? Best catch was the Big Boy. I was excited to see both 4014 and the NNW reunion. With 475 and 611. Can you do a train talk about the F59 PHI? I did already, actually, in episode 15 a couple years ago. Take a look at it. What's your favorite train? CSX, BNSF, NS, Union Pacific, or Amtrak? Amtrak. Will you do gameplays I've thought about doing Let's Plays for railroad-themed games before, but I just haven't had time to explore that yet. Hopefully one of these days I'll get to do that. What is your favorite horn, and what is your favorite GE loco? K5LA and the P32-8BWH. Is there any news on the 3985 being restored? Now the latest word that I heard about 3985 is that it's been officially retired and that it's not going to be restored at this time, unfortunately. What are these places called? And the first one is the BNSF Medea Trestle in Illinois. The next one is Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. And the last one is the Union Pacific Railroad Trestle Bridge near Vail, Arizona. Do you have any favorite steam or diesel locomotives? If you do, what are they? The Southern Pacific GS4 and the F40PH. How does it feel to have such a big influence in the rail fan world? It's really neat. It's very special, very humbling, and at times it's kind of overwhelming to grasp. Will you be rail fanning the Peninsula Rail Corridor when Caltrain begins testing the electrification systems? I'm not sure. It depends on if I have time for it. Can you go to Utah to film the tracks and Frontrunner? I've actually filmed both of those before and have videos on my channel, but I might go back to Utah and film them again in the future. Are you going to do an Arizona Trains episode? Also, can you do more 44, 49, and big boy rail fanning? Yeah, I want to do an Arizona Trains video. I'm hoping to see the big boy again this year. We'll see if it runs. In terms of 4449, I heard that there are no plans for it to do any more mainline excursions for the foreseeable future, but I certainly hope that changes. Are you going to film the Fillmore and Western Rail Fest in 2020? I'm not sure yet. It depends on if I'm in Southern California at the time. Is 2020 going to be busy for you? Will you miss the era of the P42 DC and the P40 DC? Yeah. 2020 is going to be very, very busy for me, just like last year, maybe even more busy. And yes, I will miss the P40 and the P42 DC, but we still have a number of years for them to run on Amtrak before they're all gone. Does anyone know if Amtrak or WashDOT have made plans to replace the Talgo lost in the derailment? I think all of the Series 6 sets are scheduled to be pulled from service this year, actually, and they're going to be replaced with the unused Wisconsin Series 8 Talgo sets. What's on the horizon for 2020? A lot of new exciting videos, hopefully, and some cool trips too. What do you think of most British commuter trains? I don't know much about them, but I'd like to learn more. What was your favorite steam locomotive catch of the year? Easily Big Boy's Return to Steam. For the next toy train video, could you recreate some famous rail fanning locations? I'm not sure what I'm going to do for Toy Trains 6 yet, but I'll certainly look into that. When the Tri-Rail Coastal Link opens, will you visit? I'm sure I'll be back to Florida again, but probably not until Brightline is finished all the way to Orlando and one or two of the ongoing steam locomotive restorations are finished. Why do Nathan P. series horns and Amtrak 507's K5LA squeal? I don't have an exact answer for you, but it has to do with the physics of how the diaphragms and the separation rings behave when the high air pressure hits them inside the power chambers. If you were to ever make a Via Rail video, could you film at Wesley Road? No promises, but that would be cool to see. Are those quiet zones? Also, could you film at Bennett Road? Same answer as previous question. Will you make a video of Caltrain commuter trains before they electrify the corridor? I'm not sure. I can put together a video of all the high-def and 4K Caltrain clips that I have in my archives so far if you want to see that, so let me know. Also, when Caltrain gets their KISS EMUs from Stadler, do you think they will get P2 horns? I don't know, probably a P2 or a K2, but they could have something completely different. Could you fix this typo in the description of the North Star video? I'll go take a look at it when I get a chance. What is your favorite freight train company? Probably Santa Fe. And the reason I like it is because it was local to where I grew up, and I also like a lot of their paint schemes. Will you come to the Niles Canyon Railway to see Skookum again? Probably not, at least not this year. Have you seen the Santa Fe 3751 before? Yes, I've seen it a bunch of times. What was your favorite catch of 2019 And what is your favorite thing to do outside trains? My favorite catch was seeing the big boy. Outside of trains, I enjoyed traveling and hiking. Why did you move to the Pacific Northwest? To be closer to family and because I didn't have any ties to San Diego anymore. I also really like the Pacific Northwest and I wanted to try something different. Will you come to Vancouver, Washington to film some trains? I've been there in the past, but I'll probably be back there at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future. Favorite steam locomotive 2019, UP 4014. Are you going to film the future of Coaster's commuter trains, new Charger locomotives? Yes, definitely. Can you post a video of the best quality horns? Do you mean ones that I've seen on in-service railroad locomotives, or are you talking about ones out of my personal collection? Why do the Metrolink horns sound so terrible? Because they're just two notes that don't make up a full, nice-sounding musical chord. What was your favorite steam locomotive to see in 2019? What steam locomotives are you planning to see in 2020? What steam locomotive restoration are you the most excited about returning to service? First question, 4014. And for this year, a lot of stuff in Colorado and hopefully 4014 again, as well as maybe some other stuff back east or in Canada. I'm excited to see Santa Fe 2926 and the Chesapeake in Ohio 2716. What was your favorite Amtrak locomotive? F40PH followed immediately by the AEM7. What's the rarest locomotive company you've seen pass by through your town or city? Back when I was in San Diego, I saw a Conrail unit pass through many years ago. Up here I haven't seen too much that's unusual, just probably either Canadian National or NS, but those aren't completely rare or unheard of. And do you think that any steam locomotive would be ready to run in 2020 like the 2472 or the 3751? Well, hopefully 3751 and 2926 and maybe the CNO 1309, but we will see soon enough, won't we? Can you go to Rockville, Maryland, Harpers Ferry, West Virginia? What about the Pacific Southwest Railroad Museum in Campo or the Santa Fe Depot? I've been to all of those before. The only one that I don't have videos of on the channel is the San Diego Railway Museum, which I may do at some point in the future. Are there any other countries that you would like to film trains in besides the US? Yes, for sure Canada, Australia, and the UK. Will you ever do a decade in review of trains for this decade? I did a decade in review last year, well, I guess now technically a year and a half ago, for the channel's 10-year anniversary. So I'm probably not going to do another one this year. Will you ever make a part 2 of fast diesel trains? That's a good idea. I hadn't actually thought about doing that before, but maybe I will now. Will you come to Salem, Oregon, Amtrak station this year? I'm not sure, but I should be passing through Salem a few times this year, so maybe. What was your favorite train in 2019, and do you hope to see it in 2020? The big boy, and yes. Do you have a clue what Shea 7 Sonora's whistle model name is? Yeah, it is a replica of a Rio Grande 5-chime whistle. Are you sad that Coaster is going to replace all their F40s with Chargers? I'm sad to see the F40s go, and I'm even more sad that they're all slated to be scrapped. In the Toy Train Galore 5, I saw Climax locomotive. Can you possibly add some footage that has some more G-scale action in it? Yeah, that's a possibility. Do you like Amtrak? And also, can you do Stone Mountain Scenic Railroad? Yes, and I'd like to do that someday. Do you think you'll visit the Georgia area, including Atlanta? Yes, definitely. How many Amtrak Cascades have you filmed this year? Somewhere in between 50 and 100. I don't have an exact number. Number 1, in the video San Diego trains in 4K at 2 minutes 29 seconds, is Surfliner still using F59 PHI? No, that was filmed at the very beginning of 2019, so I put it in that video. And is 2019 your best year? One of them. It certainly was my busiest to date. What is your favorite steam locomotive? 4449. Why pick Coaster as the train company for your username? Because it was my local commuter railroad when I was growing up in San Diego. What was the most beautiful sight you've seen while rail fanning? A bald eagle flying overhead, probably. What kind of train do you like the most, as in type and maybe model? For diesel, it'd be the EMDF 40PH, or steam, probably be the Southern Pacific GS4. What was your highlight of 2019, and do you plan on recording trains overseas in the future? Highlight was going to Florida and seeing the big boy, and yeah, I'd like to go overseas, but I'm not sure when that'll be. Do you prefer steam locomotives located on the West Coast, the Midwest, or on the East Coast? Depends on what it is. I like a bit of everything. Do you participate in voice acting channels? I'd like to do a bit more of that, but I've been so busy lately that I've barely had time to keep up with my own upload schedule. What was your favorite moment of 2019? Also, it was great to meet you in Strasbourg. Favorite moment was seeing the big boy, and it was great to meet you too. What's your favorite steam locomotive? SP4449. What are your thoughts of Virgin Trains USA coming to the West Coast to serve from Las Vegas to Victorville and soon to LA? Also, what are your thoughts of Coaster retiring their F40s for the new ST44? It'll be neat to see it up and running if they do indeed end up building it. I am very sad to see the Coaster F40s retired. Any plans on filming the Columbia River Gorge or Oregon Trunk? I'd like to spend some time filming both of those, so maybe this spring or summer. Are you happy to see Amtrak P42DC number 42 return to the main line? Also, will we ever see a train talk on systems like CTC, ATS, and PTC? Yes, it's good to have 42 back, and I'd like to do train talk episodes on all those eventually. Are steam locomotives still in regular service and not just for show? Steam locomotives are only used on tourist railroads and at museums in the United States. For trains on the Cascade Line, what are the fins on the front and back of the train, and are they functional? The fins are cosmetic pieces that were applied to the original Talgo cars that were built in the 1990s. They don't have any kind of a special function. It's just a visual transition between the height of the original locomotives that were used on this service and the Talgo cars that were significantly lower. Best tips for rail fanning, best locations, maybe what best cameras for taking pictures. Like I said in response to an earlier question, I've actually been thinking about doing a train talk episode on different train videography and photography tips. Do you have any plans to go overseas? I don't have anything firm yet, but I'm very much hoping to eventually. Will you ever ride Cass Scenic Railroad number 9? If they ever run it on a regular train while I'm at Cass? Sure. Do you have any model trains? I do. Is the diesel behind the steam locomotive used as pulling power, or is it just for braking and electric power to the cars? It's mostly for braking and car power, but sometimes they use them as helpers. What will you upload in 2020? About 52 different train videos, so stop by every Friday. What's your favorite Metrolink line? The Orange County line. Have you ever thought of doing advocacy work for rail expansion improvement using your platform? I don't really see that as the main purpose for my channel, but if someone approached me about doing that, I'd certainly consider it. Do you model trains? If so, what scale? I do have model trains. I don't have a layout because I just moved, but I have a number of model trains, mostly N and HO scale. Could you maybe go to southern British Columbia and do some rail fanning there? I will almost certainly be going there this year. What are some tips for starting a rail fanning YouTube channel? Interact with other creators and focus on constantly improving your videos and creating something that's unique and enjoyable. What kind of camera do you use for rail fanning? Canon XF400? Will you do a train talk episode on Union Pacific Steam Program? Someday, hopefully. Are you going to do Toy Trains Galore 6? And buy Metrolink and Caltrain? Those may appear in Toy Train 6. We'll just have to wait and see. Do you remember trains back when you were a kid? And when was your very first rail fanning trip and train location? Yes, actually, one of my favorite memories was going down to the Old Town Transit Center in San Diego and watching trains with my dad, particularly the Amtrak San Diegans flying through. Do you ever plan on looking at the Amtrak Crescent in Birmingham, Alabama? Probably when I do a video on the Crescent. Do you think Tri-Rail or Brightline trains are useful to South Floridians? Yeah, they get a lot of ridership. Can you do a video of Via Rail? I'm hoping to do that soon. How was seeing 4014? It was very, very cool. One steam locomotive you haven't seen yet is Iowa Interstate 6988. Would you like to see it? Yeah. If they rent it next year and I'm free, yeah, I'd like to see it. Are you going to rail fan overseas? At some point, yes. What is your all-time favorite train? The Coast Daylight. Can you do a Caltrain in the next video? Probably not in the next video, but eventually. Have you ever filmed the Heber Valley Railroad, or have you been to Galesburg, Illinois? No to Heber, yes to Galesburg. What steam locomotive has never run an excursion service that you'd like to see restored? Southern Pacific Cab Forward 4294. Do you prefer Washington or California? So far, I prefer Washington. Do you or have you ever played any train simulator games? I used to play a lot of them quite a while ago, but I've just been so busy lately. Could you do a meet and greet in New York City? Maybe if I do a nationwide meet and greet tour. What got you started on YouTube, and what do you consider to be your best and favorite catch or moment of rail fanning? I was inspired by other rail fan YouTubers and probably seeing the big boy back under steam. Do you have plans to film trains in Ashland, Virginia, or Folkestone, Georgia? No firm plans, but I'd like to. Have you rode the Canadian Rocky Mountaineer? Not yet. What was your favorite steam locomotive catch of the year? 4014. What was your first recollection of trains? Watching Amtrak trains in San Diego with my dad and watching the video Daylight Express by Skyfire. What was your favorite catch of 2019, and what are you looking to catch in 2020? Favorite for 2019 was 4014, and for 2020, the rotary snowplow on the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad. Will you visit the 2 tourist railroads in Northwest North Carolina? I've been to the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad before, and there is actually a video of it on my page. As for the Tweetsie, I'd like to visit that at some point too. Do you have any other hobbies? I have other things that I like to do, but I'm not sure any of that would be considered a hobby. What's your favorite train engine? Also, what's your favorite character on Thomas? My favorite train engine is the Southern Pacific Daylight locomotive 4449, and my favorite Thomas character was Edward. Have there ever been any days or times in your life where you just wanted to throw your arms up into the air and give up on your channel? Yeah, there have been times, but you know, what I usually do is just take a deep breath and step back for a while and think about things, and I usually get right back into it. How much money do you make in an average month? It really varies a lot by the month based on the advertising cycle, but you know, without going into too much detail, it's enough to pay for the travel expenses that I incur going out to film everything, and it's enough to support myself reasonably well on top of that. Bucket list catch. For something that I've already checked off the list would have to be 4014. For something that I'd still like to see would be an all-matching Southern Pacific or Santa Fe freight consist, or you know, I'd take Amtrak 822 and 145 in the same train too. I'd be happy with any of those. Will you ever try rail fanning overseas like Australia or Russia? Australia is the #1 priority for me for overseas travel, followed by the UK, but I can add Russia to the list as well. What's the most memorable moment in your life this year? Most memorable moment was definitely seeing the big boy running in for the first time in decades and decades. I really can't stress enough how cool that was. What is your favorite place to rail fan in the United States? I can't really pick one, but I love the BNSF rail lines along the water in the Pacific Northwest. Favorite fallen flag railroad and or favorite extinct steam locomotive? Favorite fallen flag would be the Santa Fe, and my favorite extinct steam locomotive is the New York Central Hudson. Are you planning to come to Texas? Yeah, I'll be back, maybe even this year, hopefully. What was going on at 9:44 in the video? That is a positive train control test train. When will you head to Fort Worth? I was there back in November briefly, and hopefully I'll be back again sometime. What is the fastest train in Germany? The Intercity Express. Any tips for starting a YouTube channel? Do something that makes you unique from everyone else. That's probably the best piece of advice I can give you. What do you think the future of American railroading will be like in 15 years? I think there'll be a lot more automation potentially, and a lot of rail corridors in urban areas that will be completely fenced off and grade separated. Are you going to head over to Australia one day? I really, really hope to, and when I do, I will definitely be announcing it. Will you please, 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 please do a train talk about train whistles? Yes, yes, yes. Hopefully, I'm hoping this year. Do you plan to come to Texas again? Yeah, I still need some more video of TRE plus a bunch of other stuff, so I'll definitely be coming back to Texas. Have you seen Southern 630? Yeah, I saw it in 2017. Are you going to play and upload videos of Train Simulator 2020 or Train Sim World? I think that'd be a fun thing to do at some point, possibly. What is your favorite high-speed train set? Sella Express, followed by Eurostar, and then TGV. What made your YouTube channel successful? Are there any tips to smaller rail fanners to boost viewership and subscribers. My fans really have made the channel successful. Without the fans, this channel would be nothing. Honestly, that's the bottom line. In terms of tips, just try to think about how you can constantly improve your videos and make what you do unique from everyone else. Would you ever want to drive any type of train, and which one would it be? Yeah, and really anything would be cool, particularly something steam. Why do you like trains a lot? I think they're cool, I think they look cool, I think they sound cool, and I think the history behind a lot of them is really very interesting. What was the best/favorite train to film, and what was the hardest train to film? The hardest would probably be the Black Mason Lake Powell, but there are many others. Favorite was probably the Big Boy or Amtrak Cascades. When will you be filming trains in Attleboro, Massachusetts again? Next time in the Northeast, hopefully. Can you come to the California State Railroad Museum someday in Sacramento? Also, do you have the link for the music? I've been to the California State Railroad Museum many times before, and I'm sure I'll be back. It's a really, really great museum, and it's very well presented, the way they have the displays and everything inside. The music I used at the beginning of the year in review video can be found in the YouTube audio library, and unfortunately there isn't an easy way to link it, but it's not too hard to find. Are you coming to the Chicagoland area this year? I'm not sure yet, but hopefully either this year or next. Where and how did you get the Whittle Shortline P42s? One of them I got years and years ago directly from Whittle. The other two are sold by Amtrak through their online store, and I think they may still be for sale if you go. It's store.amtrak.com. Are you ever going to do train talks on regional train routes like you did for the long distance routes? And if possible, why did you move from San Diego to the Pacific Northwest? I did a train talk on the regional and intercity Amtrak routes back in 2018. I believe it was episode 17. As I previously mentioned, family, I like the Pacific Northwest better, and pretty much everyone I knew, except for a couple people, but most of the people I knew had left San Diego. So what made you start doing this? I was inspired by other people posting videos of trains to YouTube way back in the early days. If my schedule allows for it, would you like me to show you around some of my personal favorite spots for capturing trains next time you return to Chicago? Yeah, potentially, sure. Do you think a private company like Brightline should handle service between Eugene and Vancouver? I don't know. I think Amtrak does a pretty good job with the service. How does that train move backward if there is no locomotive at 123 in the year in review video? See my first episode of Train Talk called What is a Cab Car? How many heritage units have you seen? 4 Union Pacific, 2 Norfolk Southern, and all the Amtrak ones. What freight railroad is your favorite in the USA? BNSF or possibly Kansas City Southern? Is that Edmunds at 633? Yep. What camera do you use for rail fanning? The Canon XF400. What's your favorite place to rail fan at? Either Pacific Northwest, the coastline, or the Del Mar Cliffs. Well, that does it for the 2020 year update video. We got an exciting year ahead of us. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next Friday for a brand new railroading adventure. Until next time, I'm Mike Armstrong. I'll see you down the line. Thanks for watching.